Welcome, everybody, to Fountains of Truth. Here we are again. My name is Joanna. We have Keith and RL in the building. What's up, everyone?
What up?
In the building. What's up, y'all?
Today it's going to be kind of tricky. Let's get real. Let's dive deep into this topic that we have for you guys today. We're going to talk about the transgender agenda, which goes a little bit further than that. Just our take on it, and again, no judgment. We're not trying to hate on anything. We're just kind of giving you our side of things and shedding some light on some things that need to be talked about. Who wants to go first?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Keith, you ready?
Man, fuck it. We just going all in. We going all in out the
Just
gate.
go,
Right?
go.
Like I want to hear how you guys feel about this, because coming from my place as being a white male in America, I'd be mad as fuck if I was black, if I was gay. I'd be mad as hell at how transgender has just swooped in and everybody's accepted it, right? Like, you understand me?
Yeah, like
Like the fact
basically that didn't get to happen for blacks.
we
There
we
was a push
60 we
back
60 200 however many years deep and the shit still exists, but yet this can just take over so quickly,
in less than a
so fast.
generation. Yeah.
Not even less than a generation, man. This shit has been like warp speed the
Like
last what,
3
2
to 5
years, 3 to 5
years.
years, whatever. Yeah, man, it took 3 to 5 years, man.
Mm,
I mean,
mm.
it's been dripping. It's been dripping.
That's
But
oof.
let's talk about it. Let's get, cuz look, there's let's get right out of the gate. Out of the gate, there's no hate here. It's not like we are anti-gay. That's not what this is, and I'm going to put that out there first,
Thank you.
because there's a whole narrative that that's what it is, and oh, we're anti-gay. No, that's not it. Not it at all. So let's just go into what it is. What is it? RL?
I mean, excuse me, clear my throat. When we speak truth, that throat, them negative entities come at the throat chakra sometimes. But um, I hear what you're saying, Keith, and this is something that I've been in multiple discussions about. Like there's been so many. Oh, I hear an echo somewhere. Let me see. Hold on for a second. All right, we're gonna we're gonna keep it moving. No big deal. Anyways, um, because there's been so many other groups. You brought up African Americans in this country, Native Americans in this country, other members of the LGBTQIA community, and all of a sudden the transgender movement just kind of comes out of nowhere and almost kind of takes over. I will challenge and say I wouldn't say that they're accepted, because just like with everything else, you have a pretty thick line of division from the liberal population and the conservative population. Um, but from a narrative standpoint, like, yeah, the push is heavy. Like it's really heavy, and you put the disclaimer out there that we don't have any hate towards that or anything like that. I mean, I'm pro be whoever the fuck you want to be. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Be you.
um, but just like with everything, we got to ask these questions, right? You know what I mean? You got to ask, like, why now is this being pushed? Why wasn't this being pushed? You know, I mean, shit, transgender's been around for a long fucking time.
Right,
Why
but
now?
then the difference is when you see, oh, I hear the echo too. When you see the dancing going on in elementary schools, or in front of kids, or you see the books that are talking about stuff that's all sexual, that really doesn't need to be talked about in at that young of an age, regardless of the sex, regardless of which way it goes. Like, this is stuff that would be looked at as wrong before, versus now it's like acceptable
And
for.
that's where I was going with accepting it, right? Like
Hmm.
we as a society, if this is being allowed in schools, if this is being allowed on the street, shit, then we've accepted it, right? Like we've accepted it as a society, not maybe not individually, because I know there's a lot of people, and I think that's part of the issue is that a lot of people we sort of been brainwashed into you can't speak up against this because then you're not you're a part of the problem, right?
Which really ends up being not that as it's the whole thing encompassing like whatever we say, you must accept.
Right.
Because if you're going against the narrative, period, whatever it is, then you're wrong and you're bad. So that's what they're pushing is this whole let's see how much we you can accept as a masses.
Yeah. Yeah, too, and like it's let me take a step back because it's not that there's anything wrong with transgenderism. Again, this isn't about the practice of transgenderism. What this is about the practice of transgenderism from a position in which it should not be viewed by minors, right? So, in other words, if I, as a heterosexual male, can't do the shit that you're doing on stage, then why the fuck should you be able to do the shit you're doing on stage? That to me is the issue. That's the issue that I personally have with it. And it's not about being transgender, it's about bringing a part of sexuality above and beyond what's allowed as normal sexuality and then highlighting it. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah, and then I'm glad you clarified that, because some people might have taken it as we're just talking about being transgender as being an issue.
Mm-mm.
No, no, it's more along the lines of the showcasing of the sexuality aspect of it, like you said. Yeah, if women can't do that, I mean, if a straight woman can't do that or a straight man can't do that, then nobody should be able to do that. And when we say shouldn't be able to, we're talking about like just from a decency standpoint. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Well, that's kind of bringing the point of why would a child be able to make a decision about the gender of who that person is, at that age, but yet can't make decisions about getting a tattoo or getting, being able to buy drinks or certain things that you have a certain age limit where okay, this person can now make their own decisions, but yet when it comes to to changing your gender, it's okay for a child at 3, 7 years old to make those big decisions.
We're
Like
talking,
this comes
yeah.
back to the parents. Like
Right,
I
we're
don't get.
talking sexuality here. Like, we're not talking like, "Hey, I like to eat carrots instead of broccoli." Like, we're talking about, like, something that doesn't even develop in a child until they go through puberty pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think from a narrative standpoint, the biggest issue, like, I have is the whole acting like gender isn't something that's scientific, like it's something that's not like a part of our being. You know what I
Our
mean?
anatomy, right.
Our anatomy, right? Like look, if you get to a point where you realize that you know what, I'm physically a man, but energetically and everything else I'm a female, and I want to change my physicality for that. Hey, go for it, nothing wrong with that at all. But to come into this world and for situations where you have parents who are your biggest influence in life, your number one conditioner, um basically giving you that choice from the jump, or not even identifying a gender with you when you're a baby, or not even giving you a name because you're not sure if he's going to be a boy or a girl, energetically or whatever the case is. That I think that's where we get into that slippery area, and that's being pushed on by this political agenda and narrative that's going on right now, because people weren't worried about that or thinking about that. They were just living their lives and letting people discover themselves.
they also weren't teaching about pronouns like this. And, they and them has always been they and them as in more people. And
Right.
all of a sudden, everyone's having to learn this. The kids are having to learn this. Everyone's like having to learn this. And it's like, it doesn't register in a sense, because it's like, at what point did this all start? Some people weren't even aware that this was a thing, but then like recently it's just exploded, and now all of a sudden everyone knows it and kids know it, and I don't know what happened. Like, when did this happen?
It's the whole don't want to offend anybody politically correct bullshit, because if you are a woman but you identify as a man and I see you and I call you she or her or a woman, that's offensive because that's not who you really are. So if we just take away the category in general, then we don't have to worry about that anymore. You feel what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah, and
like
I just
taking the
feel like if
label off of individuals.
but if people just understood that we are all male and female energetically, and that we all carry that energy, and that we can, but that we are here in this lifetime as the female or male version that we came to be, to experience certain things, and be okay and accept the authenticity of who we are. Like, that is acceptance, coming in and accepting who you are. Yes, I am very male energy because I'm a Leo, and that is a fire sign, and that is all male energy. Along with all my other signs that are very air. So I'm very, very male energy, but my outside is very female. I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to accept that and play the role that I came here to play in this lifetime. So I think that that's more of a bigger acceptance than changing it. You know what I mean? But that's me.
Right. And, shit, to each his own on that one. I mean, I can't, I don't think any of us can get on here and say what it would feel like to be in the situation where you feel like you want to change your gender. So, I mean, I'm not going to speak on that. All I can do is speak on what I see. Everything you said, obviously 100% correct. You're the queen of metaphysics. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when I think of, look, we've all been male or female in past lives. We've done it all. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And
Mhm.
just like there are abnormalities, or things outside the norm or outliers physically and genetically, there probably is energetically too. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I could totally see a situation where somebody comes into this incarnation as a man, but their energy is so feminine, you know what I'm saying? Like so heavy feminine that it makes them feel
Yeah.
that way, things of that
Yeah.
nature. And
Yeah.
and like I said, there ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just more along the
Oh,
lines of,
yeah.
but here's the kicker. Like, we know when we pull the veil back, we know that there's something beneath this. And that's where the root of this bullshit really comes from. And that is like, and that's what we need to uncover together. Like, what is the agenda behind this? What do you think the agenda
Right,
is?
because like one on one, like I grew up with lots of friends actually, because I mean I was in the makeup artist world, and I was just always around, you know, gays and transgender and just all of that stuff. And I actually had to do makeup on men that wanted to look like females. So I had to do that a lot, and cool people. I mean, like, eh, I'm cool with everyone. The point is though is that when you're as a system trying to push a narrative that eventually is a drop to then becoming no gender, right? This whole what's the word? It's not the no gender, but it's yeah, where you end up,
Non-binary.
it's not even that, like, you're just ending up as an AI. You're not even like human anymore. It's like they're slowly trying to take away um the label, but yet by adding more labels. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like,
Hmm.
they're trying to take away this like simple form of just a human, and now it's just a bunch of labels.
What do you think it is, Keith? What do you think the underlying reason for all this is?
You calling me out, man. Dude, I'm still stuck on the previous section, and I'm listening to Joanna, man, and I'm remembering like it was a moment because we when she was in that world, we hung out with with her friends and stuff like, and they were mostly gay men, and we went to the gay club a couple times, and we went to this particular one, right? And we on stage, man, and the dude's like, "Take your shirt off," and then all the dudes in the audience are like, "Take your shirt off." And I looked at Joanna, I was like, "This is my time. It's my time to
And
shine."
I'm like, no, no,
And she wouldn't let me, man. She wouldn't let me take this fucking shirt off.
I am jealous. I don't even care if it's girls or guys. No.
And that was my time to
That's
shine,
hilarious.
man. So I'm like reflecting on that and just thinking about that and whatever. But yeah, man, it's not about the transgenderism. That's what all this whole show, everything I've said, everything we've all said, it's not about that, right? It's about the bigger picture and the message and the effect that it has and where this is going, right? Because like yeah, like I've always thought about it, man. Like if you could grow up and you were never labeled a gender, right? There was no pink, there was no blue, there was no gun, there was no fucking
Barbie.
transformer. You just picked up whatever you picked up and you kept it moving. And as a father, if my son picked up a doll, I'm cool with it, right? Even though I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yeah,
it
100% in them.
I mean, my son, I think he did a little bit, and I mean, it's
Yeah,
sort of like in some part inside of me that's the cultural because when we grew up, this wasn't a thing, right? Like you grew up in the
right.
fucking 80s, man, like in the 80s and 90s, and like AIDS had just come out, and they were fucking just putting down gay people for this shit. Like
Yep.
that's when we grew up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
When it was hard to come out. Yeah.
right, and to see it now, and to see just the social acceptance of behaviors that aren't normal, it's like, and I know I'm not answering your question, man, but I'm just sort of recapping
No,
all
this
the
is good
shit,
shit. That's
shit,
good shit.
the shit I'm thinking about. So it's like, again, it's the agenda. And what was the question? I fucking forgot.
Like, where do you think this is going? Where do you think this is headed? Like, what's the
Well,
drip?
I mean, I see what you're saying about no gender, but I actually think that would be cool. If gender just sort of you grew into it
Transhumanism.
and you
Yeah.
weren't introduced to it. Like I think that's a dope idea. But the where I have a concern, and this has been my argument from the jump, is that we are male and female energy is real, right? And the need to mutilate, and I'm sorry if that's an offensive word, it's a strong word and it's meant to be that way because I feel that body mutilation, like respect of your temple should be utmost, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And if I'm changing the temple that I was born into, then to me that is disrespectful. For me, I don't disrespect you because you make that decision, but for me in my life, that's disrespectful. So I'll have a hard time like imagining a situation, no matter how girly I felt, I just can't imagine going through that type of surgery, which I haven't done a ton of research on it, but like it's not an easy thing to go through,
Oh
right?
no.
Which again makes me think, fuck, man, how deep must that desire be for you to go through some shit like that?
Right. Well, here's
Right.
the
Ain't no
question.
way you
But
touching my dick. Ain't
here,
nobody touching my
listen.
dick
Here's
with
the
a knife.
question.
Ain't happening.
Here's the question, though. Here's the question. Is it because we haven't been accepted for how we truly are? Like, for example, if you are really truly feminine, right? But society doesn't accept your femininity, then for example, then you feel like you have to then change into a female in order to then be
Mm,
accepted by
Yep.
society
that's a
to
good
be
ass point.
feminine. Where same for me. I'm too masculine. So should I change to be masculine so that I'm accepted as for my masculinity instead of society being able to embrace both masculine and feminine from the person regardless of the outside?
Yeah, no,
Right.
100%.
And I
That's
think
that's a big
we're
point
far away from that.
because I've actually known a few transgender people um that changed into women and like women. You know what I'm saying? So they were men that changed into women, but they're attracted to women. You know what I'm saying? So the transition was more about what you just said. It wasn't about like, I want to become a woman so I can attract men. No, it's like I want to become a woman because that's who I am. That's how I feel, and that's how I feel my most feminine self. So that totally makes sense.
And so, like, to answer, going back to it, I know I rambled, my bad.
You
But
good?
where it concerns me is the fact that, like, I see a shit ton of Instagram videos where, they're asking women and people, what is a woman? Is if a woman feels like a woman, is she a woman? Now, subconsciously and psychologically, women are different, right? Like, they're built different. They have the ability to create life, right?
They have a
Like, they have a
womb.
womb, they have a physical structure and a connection that a man doesn't have. So you just can't simply choose to have that shit. You either have it or you don't. So when we start breaking down and abolishing what a woman is and acknowledging her power and what she brings to the world, and thereby also dismissing what a man is and what he brings to the world. And that's a whole nother conversation of a drip campaign that's been going on since the 80s too, on the demasculization of men, but that's another fucking subject. But that maybe
Oh
that's why we're here, right? Maybe that's part of the reason why we're here. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have said that. But
no, that's good. That's good,
but
man.
but like, here we are. And so, to me, that's the danger, man, is that male and female serve a purpose. They should be respected. They haven't been respected for a long fucking time. The femininity and the queenness of a woman has been fucking driven into the floor, much like, I think, the African American, the Africans experience in America. Their spirit has been drugged through the mud. Women's have been treated the same way.
We
And to
all need to
me,
rise up.
right. And to me, that is the bigger issue, because again, I think it perpetuates it, and I think it further disconnects us from who we truly are.
Yeah, that last part definitely. I'm 100% in on. That's good shit, man. For me, look, for me, I think it's all part of the depopulation plan because the more
Yeah.
the bigger push for this agenda, the less identifying as a gender, the less fucking babies are gonna be born. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's just, you know what I mean. At the end of the day, now I know that I just read some shit that a dad gave birth. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the first, one of the first in the world's history. I don't know the science behind it, but they're saying men could give birth now, and men can have periods and all this shit. Through whatever the fuck they're doing. But I think that's the ultimate plan. I think they are confusing our minds so much, not ours, but the public in general, to the point where we're going to get to a point that we don't even understand the world we live in anymore. Like, and
Right.
we and we're and once they start, you know, um, capping our reproduction, then you're gonna really understand like what the fuck's really going on behind the scenes. Because you're pushing this agenda, and this agenda is pushed so hard, specifically by politics. Just kind of is what it is, media narratives and whatnot. And they're confusing people, and if you speak up against it like we are, we're ostracized, we're canceled, we're conspiracy theorists, we're uh, super
Bigots.
conservatives. Yeah, all these different names they wanna put us in a box for, when we're just honestly speaking our opinion, because we don't have any issue with the people. We have an issue with the narrative, because anytime there's a narrative being pushed from that high and that wide, there's a motive behind it.
And
There
you
is.
know
Yeah.
that there's something behind when it comes to young children.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, so it's like
In my
pedophiles.
head.
That's where I was going.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Like, you can't, and that's the thing, right? Like, it only takes a generation to change the trajectory of a society, right? Like, if the parents accept what we've seen happen with this subject in schools and bookstores and whatever,
Mhm.
then the children, then, because the acceptance of the parents, now they are being programmed to accept the same behavior. Again, not that it's wrong or right, that's not the point. But if the children then can accept, hey, I can choose whether I want to be a boy or a girl, I can choose whether I want a penis or a vagina,
Mhm.
then now you've normalized the behavior in less than 20 years. Imagine 20 years what they're going to allow with their children, right? Because they've grown up with the acceptance of a behavior that up until then wasn't considered normal, right?
Yeah. Yep. And this is just another case of technology. Um, Technology basically overthrowing man versus machine, because these types of surgeries and whatnot were like so like high risk back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where it was like you talked about, mutilating your own body, like that would be a massive choice of life. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put myself at serious risk to do something like that. With the technology of today, it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna go get changed. I'll be back on the weekend. I'll be good. I'll be good to go. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, now you can just put your consciousness in and last forever.
there you go. Yes. Now I pulled
But
up. I found these statistics just because I thought these were very interesting. All right. So just to kind of show everybody that when we talk about agenda, right? Don't get caught on the transgender word of this podcast. Get caught up on the agenda aspect of it. All right. So like from 2017 to what are we in? I guess I think
2023.
we're in 2023, but these statistics go from 17 to 2020. So we're talking 3 years. All right.
Okay.
So in 3 years, from ages 13 to 17, in 2017, there were 700,000 kids basically that identified as transgender. 700,000 in the country, in the United States. Right. I'm sorry, it's 5 years. So it's 2022, my bad. So 2017, there was 700,000. 2022, there's 1.6 million. More than
What?
doubled in a 5 year span.
So it's become this fad.
That's the question. And this is a very deep question. Is it the trend? Is it the narrative? Is it the push? Is it the conditioning? Or is it because it's more accepted now, more people are coming out and admitting it? Because that's going to
No,
be the
because, okay,
argument.
I'm going to tell you right now from my gut. You can't just tell me that without pushing it and teaching 3-year-olds about pronouns and all these new labels that it's not pushed. There's no way, because if it wasn't talked about, there'd be maybe a small percentage that would again be completely feminine in a male body. I get it, right? And vice versa. But for that to go up the way that it is, because all of a sudden it's accepted, I don't know. I call bullshit on that one.
And that's a major increase.
That is
like
that is
what
just a major push.
like we talk about ins and outs, right? Like how many gender clinics are out there? Could they take in that kind of increase in volume in a 5 year period? Like, doesn't there have to be more of these things popping up? And if they're popping up, it's because there's demand,
Well,
right?
that's the
And if
thing.
there's
I
demand,
think there's a okay. So we're talking an increase that was a 900,000 individual increase in 5 years, right? But see, all those just because you identify as transgender doesn't mean you're actually changing. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, like
Right.
my teenage daughter has a friend who was born a female, but then identified as a male for about 6 months, and then changed it back to a female. She changed her name like 3 times, right? So like you get that's where the trend and the fad, and I'm not calling out that individual, who knows what's truly in her heart. But now it's become such a thing that you have a lot more people identifying as it, but would never step into a clinic and make the change. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They're
Just
just
like
testing it out and seeing what it's
And
like.
right.
Yeah.
and straight up, like if I could, like I think like I would love to be able to have the balls to be able to walk out like a woman and come home as a man and switch whenever I wanted. Like that's fucking crazy. Like that's so fucking cool. Like
Right.
that in and of itself is cool.
Oh,
But
if we can do it with us like this, I mean, I do it all the
well, I
time.
don't mean like change physically, but I mean just like I can make myself look like a woman and go to work that way, and everybody's just
Drag.
cool with it, and it's just accepted. And
I
then
mean,
I
that's
come home, and the
that's
next day I go as a guy. Like that's cool. You
yeah,
get to
that's
experience,
drag.
right? But that's not what this is, right?
No, it's yeah, it's
Transgenderism
completely
is
different.
what? Educate me.
What is
Because you said
transgenderism?
you could transgenderism is obviously you can change your gender, right? In terms of physically, right? Surgically, yes.
Right. Well,
And also
transgender is what you identify as.
identify.
Transsexual is when you actually make the physical
Okay.
conversion.
Okay.
Shit, I may be wrong. It might be flipped, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Or
So I
no,
mean,
no. Okay,
again,
I could be wrong. See, yeah, y'all keep talking. I'll find it
it
out.
again, it's the connection, but it's the connection to the surgery that I think is like, come on, really? Like, why does that need to happen? So you're telling me that I'm unsure. So you're going to do some irreversible shit to my unsure mentality that I then have no choice with
They
once I've
have
made it?
time in between. They have like a certain amount of time where they can decide, and figure out if that's what they want to do, like a certain year or whatever, where they're taking hormones, where they're, seeing it out before they actually go through surgery.
Right. Yeah. And
Right.
I saw a study. I saw a study that was talking about this, and they I think it was like 80% of kids that experience like gender dysphoria, it just cures itself as it goes through puberty. Right. It'll just take care of
Oh
itself.
yeah.
Now, logically, laws are all across this fucking land. I can't go to war unless I'm 18. Can't drive a car unless I'm whatever now. I don't know what the fucking age is now, right? I can't drink alcohol unless I'm 21. I can't go watch pornography unless I'm 18.
I can't get a
Hmm.
tattoo.
But I can change my gender at what age?
I don't even know if there's
Whatever
a
the age
cap
is.
on
But,
it.
but the point is that we establish those ages for a reason. You are not of the mental capacity to make a decision that is serious enough that could affect your life. Why the
Right.
fuck is this any different? Right?
Well,
And
that's
that's why they're
yeah.
pushing it really young so that they can, go back and forth, deciding, because you're curious at that age, and it's like, if that's the in thing, when and you get to try it out, why not, right? I could see that.
Hmm.
um but to then completely make a change, I don't know. I mean, I think that's where you draw the line.
Right. Well, just for educational purposes, transsexual and transgender is synonymous. So
Oh
I was
shit.
I was wrong. Um,
What's
but
your
yeah,
source?
Right.
grammar.com or some shit like that. Some shit like
Webster.
that. Yeah, right. So learning new things here on the Fountains of Truth. Um, yeah, I mean, look, to push this on kids who can't even, figure out what show they want to watch on Netflix, or which Disney princess they like best and shit like that, and put the responsibility on them and accountability of what they want to identify as for the rest of their life is just, it's irresponsible of the parents, and it's irresponsible of society. Straight the fuck up.
Yeah, but like, it's
Yeah.
coming from the top, because it's like, it's on Netflix. It's in these movies and shows for kids already. Like, they're already changing this stuff on shows. Who's making those decisions? Right? Who's pushing this in the schools? Who's
Well,
having drag shows for
And,
kindergartners? Like,
and
who's making these decisions for it to be allowed in public education? Like, I don't get it.
and I'm not trying to create anger on both sides of the equation.
right.
But again, when you go back in history, American history, what was the average black person or African American's role in early film? What was their fucking role?
Why? What's your
It
point?
was shit. It was
Yeah.
shit. It was degrading. It was fucking awful. I mean, but yet here you have this situation, and how is it treated? I'd be mad as fuck, man.
I remember when you started saying this. This was about 2021 or 2022 or something, when um it was Pride Month, and the stuff was supposed to come down, um and then the next month, it would be Black History Month, or there was always something every month, but it was Pride Month for the whole year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we were like,
Yeah.
well, that's not fair for everybody else, right? So we
Yeah.
were starting to go, okay, this doesn't make any sense because everybody else is not getting this type of attention, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if we're making it
Yeah.
in publishing, if we're making it in movies, if we're making it in the news, if we're making it all across then that means there's an effort. There's a orchestrated, organized effort to put this message out there.
Right.
Yeah. And what it comes down to is that it comes down to threat. Like black and brown people in this country are more of a threat than transsexuals, transgenders,
Mhm.
LGBTQIA. It's not as much of a
A,
threat,
a
especially when we're
threat in what
talking about.
way?
Well, the threat in which way? I mean, you got to look at the powers, right? It all funnels up to the top, and their whole goal, their whole intent is to maintain that power no matter what. And however we want to slice it in whatever way, race and social class are always going to be a part of that. That
Oh yeah.
race, much, even higher than social class. So black and brown people, are going to be a threat to that threshold to be able to hold on to that power. The LGBTQIA, transgenders, they're not a threat. They're not a threat to anything. So they're going to be more easily accepted when it funnels from the top. So that's why you say, how do these things happen? How do they end up in the school? Because it's the trickle down effect. Once they push it, utilize the media and push that out there the way that they do and get celebrities to be advocates for it. And then you've got, like, for instance, Dwayne Wade, his child is transgender, and seeing people like that really push for it, then it becomes a normality. Then it becomes kind of the trendy thing. And what happens is now they look at it like a tool, specifically liberals and Democrats use it as a tool for two things. One, to use against Republicans because they know that conservative Republicans will never be for that. And number two, because Democrats and liberals are about one thing: making you feel like there's an issue in the world that we're going to take care of. So the only way they exist is if there's an issue in the world. And the issue and flavor of the day right now is transgenderism. And they're going to push it. And they're going to milk that shit for the next few years. And then they'll probably move on to something else. You know,
The ebbs and flows.
that's
The
how it is.
Well,
ebbs
it's
and
always going to be
flows.
something.
Always. They have to, look, Democrats and liberals have to have, if they don't have, if there's not an issue, then they don't exist. Because their whole premise is to make you feel like you need them in whatever form or fashion, whether it's climate crisis, whether it's racism, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's abortion, whatever, whether it's marijuana, whatever there has to be an issue that we are going to represent the people for. So you think you need us. And the
I mean,
minute
I think that's just government altogether, like period.
No, no, no doubt. But when you look at it from both sides, if you look
Yeah,
at the
but
Republicans are more, you're on your own, free enterprise. That extremely conservative. Don't get me wrong. Like, their thing is, we're going to uphold your Christian standards. Like, that's kind of where they stand. You know
whatever that means.
exactly.
If we can just come together, red and blue, and make purple. Yikes.
I'm on like I'm sitting here thinking about what you said earlier, and I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like the outer manifestation of our own inner issues, right? As a
Always.
society, I mean, that's what it is, and take that with a grain of salt. Take it or leave it. But yeah,
Think
you're
about it.
definitely onto
We
something
have
with that.
grown up with this whole patriarchy thing where everybody has been confused about who's what, diminishing the divine feminine within everybody.
Mm,
And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, the this whole feminine rising of the spirituality, this age of spirituality starts to rise. People are feeling that. They're feeling this whole feminine energy. They don't know what to do with it, right? Because society has pushed it down, pushed it down. So they're like, well, what are my choices here? And so a lot of them have created choices. Cool, good for them. Like, this is all about experimenting in this earth plane, and figuring out what's what, right? Getting all this
Mhm.
information and coming back to the light with more information. At the end of the day, you are evolving as a soul with experience. And if that means you experienced in this lifetime both male and female, awesome, whatever. I just think we've been so confused growing up without understanding both sides of the coin, understanding how to embrace both sides, that we have this whole confusion right now. It's things coming up to the surface and we have just chaos until we start understanding ourselves more, and then we can just kind of smooth it out.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that because let's look at um different emotions, right? Like the first time you fall in love, right? It's a feeling you've never felt before. Sometimes you don't know how to react to it, and you can make certain decisions based on that feeling. Or the first time you get your heart broken, or the first time you feel hatred or any type of animosity towards something, like emotions you've never felt before. And what I think might be happening is like kids are growing up and they don't understand how to embrace their extra femininity because we live in a toxic society where there's toxic masculinity, to where we've been conditioned and brought up and indoctrinated to think that a boy should never cry. A boy should
Right.
never jump rope. A boy should never play with the doll. A girl, shouldn't wear blue. A girl should learn how to cook, by the time she's 12 years old, and all these different aspects of society that have been ingrained in all of us, that when they feel the opposite, they don't know how to react. They might feel like a boy might, want to learn how to cook. He might want to stay home. He might want to, do all the things that have been labeled as female things, and they
Right.
don't know how to react. And when you have a society pushing, well, shit, you're feeling that way, maybe you're not supposed to be a boy, maybe you're supposed to be a girl. So then that just
And,
fucks with their head even more. You know what I'm saying?
and what age are we in? We're in the age of Aquarius. This is the age of rebellion. So you're
Mm.
going to have people who have been pushed heavily to fit in a box, to be a man, to be a certain way, right? And now they're just in this all of a sudden feeling wanting to feel free, wanting to come out of that cage of, I've been trapped in this box of having to be this way. I just want to be whoever the fuck I am, and they go
Yeah.
in the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think too, like we talk about all this, but at the end of the day, what does it all come back to? It comes back to sexuality, right? Very few of us are taught about sexuality. We're taught sex, and we're talking
Yes.
about the end all be all sex, but
Mm.
we're not taught sexuality, right? And so, you want to bring
The
sex.
sacred act, you mean?
Yes, you want to
Yes.
bring sex into school and you want to express it in such a way that it's expressed, cool. But at the end of the day, the fucking truth of the matter is that if you understand the depth of sexuality and the sexual act itself, at the end of the day, it don't really matter whether you got an innie or an outie, because the end all be all result is the same, right? When you're having sacred sex, it's not about anything other than connection and the
Soul to soul.
rising
Yeah.
soul to soul and the blending of
And
energies.
at that point, love
And
is love. It doesn't matter what the
we've
outside is.
yes,
Right.
we've absolutely raped our minds of this concept to where we literally are, again, I'm sorry, mutilating our bodies to defend our sexuality, which I don't know, man. Maybe there's a word for it, and I can't think of it. But it's I don't know. It's not where it's at, because if you truly understand sexuality and the divine principles of it, it don't matter.
Mm. Man, that's heavy. That was beautifully said, brother. Man.
Hmm.
So like I always remember this Gnostic gospel from Saint Thomas, that is one of the books that were never put in the Bible. And
Right.
it talked about a there were a lot of talk about the end is near, when the people ultimately become non-gender, don't identify with the gender. It's something that's been brought up a lot with the obvious rise of transgenderism and whatnot. You know,
Mhm.
everybody's always trying to talk about it's the end of the world and shit. But I was able
Right.
to pull up the actual quotes, and I just want to get your guys' take on it. All right. This is from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, one of the books that was left out of the Bible as we know it. It says, when you make the two one, the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, the top like the bottom, that is it. And when you make male and female to be one and the same, so that the male is not male and the female is no longer female, then you will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Moreover, at a different point in the gospel, he also says, um, a fundamental condition for a woman to enter the kingdom of heaven is that she should change sex and become a man. And then Christ says, well, I'll attract her until she becomes a man so that she too can become living spirit as you men are, because every woman who becomes a man will enter the kingdom of heaven. All right, Joanna, dissect that shit.
Doctor.
Hmm. Ah. You guys are like looking at me now, and I'm sitting here closing my eyes, really taking it deep. Um, See, the thing about the Bible is that it uses the word woman to mean different things. It uses the word female and male to mean different things. So it's like you have to really dissect. And you should send that to me. I really want to look at
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Um, because there could be, it talked about the hermetic principles of as above, so below, right? As
Right.
whatever is happening, you could say that as on earth as it is in heaven, however you want to look at it. But it's inward and outward. There's the anatomy of the left and the right, the spirit and the mind. So there's so many different ways that we can look at that, because to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to basically, this is an inward spiritual journey that happens when we are to blend our male and female energies that rise. And if we are to look at that as our anatomy, then that is the kundalini rising of our Christ seed oil energy, that basically unites as one. And then there is no gender, because it's just one, it's the all. So when we look at it that way, it could also be talking about our anatomy. So there's
Mm,
the metaphysical, there's the anatomy, there's um then there's what we're talking about, right? So I don't want to even cross the line about that, since it's a Bible reference. I want to actually look at it and dissect it myself.
for sure. For sure. So on the next episode of Fountains of Truth, we'll have the dissection.
But that's a good one though. But everything has a deeper meaning. You can't
For
just take
sure.
the words literal and hear it once and think you know it. So I definitely don't, and I really would like to look at it further. So
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a deep metaphor of some sorts,
for
you know.
sure.
Book of
But
Thomas, man. That's like all deep
Man,
metaphors.
that's when they take all the mystical stuff out, because then you
Yeah.
realize that it is mystical and that it
yep.
is, a spiritual thing versus a letter, and they don't want you knowing that. So they want to just keep most of the little literal stuff in it.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So, and who's to say that this transgender agenda isn't tied to the Great Reset? You know what I'm saying? To the new
Yeah.
world, because that may be a part of it. I obviously, like, I voiced my opinion earlier about the whole depopulation, sterilism, and basically stopping us from reproducing. I mean, and that's not a knock, but when you see numbers like 700,000 to 1.6 million in a 5-year span, and let's not even, like, even if you looked at the increase in other aspects of the LGBTQ community, right, have continuously risen. If you get to a point where, I don't know, 40 to 50% of the population is, as an LGBT person told me one time, a non-breeder, you know, Like that's going to have a serious effect on the population on this planet. You mix that with the fucking jab and what's going on, with that. Who's to say where we're at in 40 years, 40, 50 years?
Well, look, you add the smart cities, right? And
Hmm.
you have people that are now happy where they are. That I don't want to leave in this chaotic, fearful world or whatever. So I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be happy, and I'm not going to have more kids because there's no room in the 15-minute city for kids.
Mm,
So you start putting all this together with AI and the whole transhumanism and gender, but you look also at the fact that we're in the age of Aquarius for 2,000 years. So if we're going to also look back at the Matrix, and even before that, what's the one that's tied to the Matrix? That
The Terminator.
Terminator, which was, they're tied together to the Matrix. You look at all of that. Okay, so maybe we're gonna have this whole AI robotic thing mixture with
Skynet.
humans, for a certain amount of time as we go through this Aquarian age before it changes to Capricorn and we become more earthly again. Who knows?
Makes sense. It makes sense
Who the
because
fuck
like
knows? I mean, whatever.
there's going to there like
Whatever.
we talk about reset, there's going to be a reset of civilization at some point. You know what I
For
mean? Like we're
sure,
we're
yeah.
trending so quickly towards a mostly AI Earth. You know what I'm saying?
George Jetson type shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Well, I think that's putting it kindly. I think that's like the fantasized version. I don't think that's what it's really gonna be like.
No, of course not. I mean, you're
Well,
gonna have your negative and your positive. Look, there's always gonna be some negativity of it and some conspiracy of it, and there's always gonna be positives of it and shit like that, right? But life is gonna change, and there's seasons to everything, and there's these signs. They all have a certain characteristic, So we live out a certain time. Look, this reminds me of the movie Cloud Atlas. Have you seen Cloud Atlas?
Is that with Tom Cruise? No, not Tom. Is it Tom?
Tom
No,
Hanks.
Tom
Tom Hanks. Tom
Hanks.
Hanks. Okay, I got the Tom right.
Yeah,
Um,
so he's not my favorite, but anymore. But
why not anymore?
Uh-oh.
just from who he's associated with and
Oh,
and
okay.
just all the bad thingies. But it's fine. I can look aside and just see him as an actor. That's fine, whatever. And that whole entire movie is going into different time frames, different eras, different and seeing the different lifetimes. Like it's like lifetime after lifetime in different eras. And one of those was a very futuristic one, I remember. That was played into the
Well,
future. And that's kind of like where we're going.
well, yeah, and you think about like some of the movies, the futuristic movies, like what's the movie where they're in the city and it's a wall built around the city, Divergent, where there's no,
Oh,
there's male and female, but there's no separation in dress, right?
Oh,
Right?
that's the giver.
Well, The Giver too.
they're
Oh,
part
and
of
how
this,
they get
the
rid of the
same
But
series,
like
isn't
babies.
it?
where they've got the factions and they're all separated out. I mean, they
Oh,
all wear the same
divergent. Yeah.
clothes. Like it's not like male and female are physically depicted through clothes and earrings and shit, lipstick and shit
Right,
like that.
right, right.
We
Right.
all and it's
It's more
interesting,
union.
right? And it's interesting when you look at futuristic movies. Most of them are that way, right? Most of
Hmm.
them sort of take away the
The
gender
gender.
defining
Yeah.
things that we experience on a daily. And I don't know what my point was other than to make that point. So I made it.
No,
The
I mean,
movies, yeah.
hey, look, we're all fucking proponents of talking about fucking predictive programming and all that shit. I mean, even The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but the way they depict society in this world of where majority of the women are sterile and can't have kids, and the ones that can have kids are basically the handmaids who have a sexual act with the men they call the commanders, just so they can continue to populate. But like, it's not, there's no love within the sex. It's literally just an act, to the point where he doesn't even touch her. He's literally just putting it in and taking it out. You know what I'm saying? And the way they treat women in that society, and all that, and the uniformity of how everyone's household is kind of the same. um, that ties into it as well. And if you continue to funnel it down, when we talk about smart cities and all these things and everything being the same pretty much, it's
Right?
very kind of like a communist society in a way. And if you don't have genders, then that makes that even easier
Yeah.
because then everybody is truly uniform.
You know,
It makes me think of uniforms when I used to have to wear uniforms in school.
yeah, it's cool, man. Because like I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you say those things, and I'm thinking about like the conversations that Joanna and I have had. Because just like you're married, right? We're all married here. The truth is, and I grew up sort of with this mentality was that what my dad tried to show me was that the male ruled, and the women never ruled, and the male kept the woman in place. But the
Right.
fucking truth is that no, it's an ebb and flow. Sometimes she's in control, sometimes I'm in control, and we dance and we move, and that is synonymous to me of the same ebb and flow that we have internally with our female and masculine energy. Some days it's okay to feel like a pink sock. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's okay to feel like, to go grab an axe and chop some wood. Shit. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. But our relationships with our spouse and the way it should be is the ebb and flow. And I think a lot of the reason for this is just the hard stance of male female, which again, I think there's some truth to eliminating the male and female aspects, but not physically, right? Not it's okay to be both. It's okay to feel a certain way. It's okay to be male one day and female the next,
Yeah,
right?
like I said, it was heavily, sided on one side. Now it's totally on the other. And eventually you'll find balance in the middle at some point.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah.
True that. Cool.
So, I guess that was it. That's very heavy today. But I think it's needed. I think it's something we can all talk about and have different opinions. And you know what? Most importantly, that we're not labeled in a box of, oh, they feel this type of way or they feel this certain type of way. No, we feel a lot of type of ways about all of this,
Yeah.
and we don't fit in one certain category. We're not a certain political party. We're not a certain, anything. We're just people with thoughts and opinions, and everyone has a different opinion. So I'm glad that you guys tune in and appreciate the fact that we all can, discuss these heavy topics.
I want to say one last thing, and we don't have to discuss it, but it's something that we didn't really touch on. Um, I wonder how transgender people feel being society's puppet, because I wonder if they can see past this. Like, yeah, they're getting, a lot of pub per se and acceptance, which is a beautiful thing that it should definitely be accepted. But what I'm saying is, like, if they can like identify that it's not really it's not a genuine feeling from the powers and the media and the narrative that's being pushed. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen a couple of videos out of people that are completely turned over and switched over and still see what's going on, and they don't feel like it's right for them to push this into the kids so early and all of that. So I've heard a couple of views from that side, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that's I don't think that that's something that is brought up.
Yeah. We might have to do a part two because now I was just thinking, and I'd love to get
Well,
Keith's perspective. S- Transgenders in
I
sports,
got
man.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Because like as a dad who's got a daughter, and just going through those mental gymnastics in my head, if a
Girls'
dude
dad,
walks
shout
in,
out.
yeah, a dude walks into the shower and he's still a dude, but he's identifies as a female. Like, is that cool? Is that cool? And part of me is like, well, why the fuck not? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we sexualize the body in such a way when it's still just a fucking body. You know what I mean?
Okay, so here's how we're going to end it. So maybe it is, but what if it isn't? Right? Because that's that fine line. What if some use this as an excuse in order to be able to do that? So then those that actually want to be a female, like let's just say a male wants to be a female and he truly does, it ruins it for him, for those that are just doing it to get off, right? It
Mm,
ruins it.
yeah, and even the
So that
ones
sucks for them.
and even the ones like who are manipulating their way into sports so they can compete, because look, there's no secret that men are physically more dominant in sports than women. It's just nature, right? It's
On
just the anatomy.
average.
Yeah, on average, not all, of
On
course. Yeah,
average.
if I try to play Serena Williams in some tennis, she gonna fuck me up. I mean, let's keep it
That's your
real.
ass.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But like, you see those situations to where you have a transgender, woman to man. I'm sorry, man to woman. Get in a swimming competition and destroy the woman, or get in a wrestling match and win, or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. You know what I'm saying?
That yeah.
But neither here nor there. We can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
I got so much to say.
No, that is gonna probably have to be another time. Fuck, I was about to say something too though.
Sorry.
No, no, no. Gender, and you said sports. Oh, they're going to jail. Um, but thinking they are female, so they go get put into the female with all the other females, but then they end up getting raped. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of that going on right now. So we might want to look up the statistics on
Well,
that.
I'm just trying to understand why, if that happened in a prison, you think the women would come together and fuck his shit up, right?
Right. You
You would
think so?
think.
Shanked.
I mean, I've never
But it's
been,
happening it's
so I don't
happening a
know.
lot. They're getting raped, and they're supposed to be put, that's why they're separating women prison and male prison, but now, there's a fine line and now they're getting raped.
That's fucking ridiculous.
So that might be a part
I think
two.
now we've all said. I just have one more thing to add to this, and this probably won't make the cut, but it's fine if it doesn't. But I want to drop this before we leave. Right. So what's our girl? She's the female preacher lady. She's like Joel Osteen, but the opposite. Joyce
Oh,
Meyer.
Joyce Meyer.
Right? Like Joyce Meyer talked about how she would never, ever, 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 ever allow a male and a female to work on a project together alone, right? Because simply the desire, the male female attraction, whatever you want to call it,
Dynamic.
could lead to nowhere good, right?
Yeah.
And me and Joanna, like really, man, like why are we restricting this? Like these are two grown
Right.
ass adults, man. Like we should be able to be around the person of the opposite sex and not have sex, right?
Right.
So it speaks to, that's sort of the surface level of this.
That's the fear
But
mentality.
as we dig into this, like we all know, when you do self work, fear runs deep,
Mhm.
and the more you heal, the deeper the fear gets. So what the fuck are we really afraid of, man? Like if a guy walks into a female room, like male and female dynamics should be such that if that fucker tries to take advantage of one of the girls, either the girls or the other dudes or whoever, because this is mixed showers now in
Right.
this made up world we're living in, this completely mixed showers, because the noble men will put the weak man in his place,
Yep.
right? And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
True.
But somehow bullying has been morphed, because we grew up in the 80s, man. Bullying was like, everybody got bullied. It
Everybody
was
got
just some
bullied.
shit you dealt with, man. I
Yep.
mean, shit you dealt with made you a better person, whatever. But right, like the strong males are being castrated because they're then trying to protect the women, and that's the dynamic. But that's not the
Yeah.
dynamic, right?
Mm.
The dynamic is, again, if
Offended.
you're offending me, and I have all the power. I have all the power that am expecting you to meet my demands, and without your demands, I'm offended. Like it's crazy, man. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
Wow.
Good shit.
We're gonna rest in peace on that one. So
All
we'll see
right.
you guys on the next one. We're out.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.